A special thank you to each of our subscribers who make this channel possible. Here's today's story. In a surprising turn of events, the Kremlin has expressed strong approval of the latest national security strategy unveiled by the Trump administration. This comes as discussions to resolve the ongoing conflict in Ukraine enter a critical phase. The document, released by the White House, criticizes the European Union and warns of a potential civilizational erasure facing Europe, while signaling a desire for improved relations with Russia. Dmitry Peskov, the Kremlin spokesperson, stated that the adjustments reflected in the strategy resonate with Russian perspectives, marking a significant policy shift from the previous administration. Peskov welcomed the Trump administration's inclination towards dialogue and the establishment of amicable relations with Moscow, though he cautioned that elements within the U.S. government, often referred to as the deep state, could undermine these efforts. As the White House pushes for a peace agreement in Ukraine, U.S. officials claim they are in the final stages of negotiations. However, both Ukraine and Russia remain hesitant about signing the proposed framework deal. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is set to meet with leaders from the UK, France, and Germany to discuss the situation further. Zelensky has previously urged European allies for support, especially when the U.S. has suggested that Ukraine might need to concede territory. A major concern for Kyiv is the security guarantees it would receive in exchange for any territorial concessions. Zelensky revealed that he had a substantive phone call with U.S. officials following a 3-day meeting with a Ukrainian delegation in Florida. This call, lasting 2 hours, was reportedly challenging as both sides navigated the complexities of achieving lasting peace. Zelensky expressed determination to work in good faith with the Americans to end the conflict and eliminate the threat of further Russian aggression. Despite the ongoing discussions, it remains uncertain whether the U.S. or European nations will provide the security assurances necessary to deter future Russian invasions. Furthermore, the prospect of having Western troops stationed in Ukraine is unlikely to be accepted by President Vladimir Putin. U.S. officials have repeatedly claimed to be close to a sustainable peace deal, but these assertions have often been met with skepticism. Keith Kellogg, the outgoing U.S. envoy to Ukraine, remarked at a defense forum that the administration's efforts to conclude the war are in the last 10 meters. He highlighted 2 critical issues still unresolved: territorial disputes and the status of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. While Kellogg has been seen as sympathetic to Ukraine's position, his impending departure raises questions about the continuity of U.S. support. In a more controversial statement, Donald Trump Jr. suggested that Zelensky is prolonging the conflict out of fear of losing power if peace is achieved. He emphasized that the U.S. would no longer be the idiot with the checkbook regarding financial support for Ukraine. Analysts in Kyiv suggest that while the situation is dire, Ukraine is not yet at a point where it must sign any agreement to avoid continued hostilities. However, they warn of a harsh winter ahead, as Russia intensifies its attacks on energy infrastructure, leaving millions of Ukrainians without power or heating. The ongoing conflict has taken a toll on Zelensky, who is grappling with a corruption scandal involving several associates and the resignation of his chief of staff. Recent drone attacks in Ukraine have resulted in casualties and significant damage to energy facilities, further exacerbating the humanitarian crisis. The Kremlin's endorsement of Trump's national security strategy highlights a shift in the geopolitical landscape. The document accuses the EU of obstructing U.S. efforts to end the war in Ukraine and calls for a re-establishment of strategic stability with Russia. It also suggests that Europe is on a precarious path, with its economic and military capabilities potentially undermining its reliability as an ally. European officials have expressed concerns about the implications of the U.S. strategy, fearing that it could weaken their position against Russia. Some have raised alarms about the tone of the document, which appears to align more closely with Russian rhetoric than traditional Western values. As the U.S. engages in discussions with the EU regarding the peace deal in Ukraine, officials have reiterated their commitment to maintaining strong ties, while simultaneously questioning the appropriateness of the strategy's focus on freedom of expression and societal organization. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk emphasized the importance of the U.S.-Europe alliance, reminding American leaders that Europe is a vital ally, not a problem. In contrast, Former Swedish Prime Minister Carl Bildt criticized the strategy for its extreme right-wing leanings, particularly in light of the US's growing ties with far-right political factions in Europe. The strategy also outlines a more aggressive U.S. posture towards drug trafficking and military engagement in regions such as Venezuela, further complicating the global geopolitical landscape. As the situation unfolds, Democrats in Congress have raised alarms about the potential fallout from the new strategy, warning that it could damage U.S. foreign relations and undermine decades of value-based leadership. With tensions high and the future of Ukraine uncertain, the world watches closely as diplomatic efforts continue to unfold amidst a backdrop of conflict and shifting alliances. That's all for this story. We upload videos every day covering many different subjects, so hit that subscribe button to stay informed. Thanks for watching.